Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It is Monday evening and this evening we are talking real cost. And by that, I mean the real cost of what's happening with energy prices, with food prices, with just the way the world is just now, certainly here in the UK. Now, if you have been watching the news, you will know that we had a very, very cold night last night. London had proper snow, like proper snow, which is highly unusual. Up about an hour north of me, it was minus 15. Here this morning when we got up, it was minus 7. I thought it would heat up. 3 o'clock, it had reached minus 5. It's now back to minus 7. So there is going to be a lot of people struggling with this. And earlier this morning, I saw the media report that the government had, or the National Grid, had put the 2 coal stations on standby. Instead of shutting them down last year, they kept them on standby just in case we needed some extra energy for this winter. And I think by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they'd said, no, it's fine, we don't need them. Okay, so I'm thinking everything's fine. But no, it seems that the energy firms are going to be asking people who have joined that scheme where you cut down your energy usage, they're going to be asking people to reduce their energy usage between 5 and 7 this evening. You know, just when everyone comes in from work and they've just come out of the minus whatever it is cold. They don't want you using as much energy. Now granted, I think it was Octopus I read about, and they said that a 2-hour stint on this has previously saved the same amount of energy that a gas power station could produce in an hour. So, you know, it seems as if it's worth it, but personally I'm not thinking that tonight is a very sensible time to do that. Also, seemingly this morning, France asked the UK to stop taking as much energy from the TransConnector thing that they've got because France was struggling. And then in Europe, somebody had said they were having one of these committee European Parliament things, and someone said, yeah, it's bad this year, it's going to be a lot worse next year because if Russia cuts off the gas, we're not going to be able to fill the storage tanks that they had filled. I seem to remember, I think Germany certainly had kind of half-decent storage. Most of them had a lot more than the UK, and they're not going to be able to fill them next winter if Russia keeps the gas turned off. And it's all, you know, all this stuff is going on. And, you know, the cost of energy has gone up so much. I think for energy between 5 and 6 this evening, when the next day prices were getting done yesterday, it was over £4,000 per megawatt hour. £4,000 for 1 hour. Which is way above what the National Grid normally pays. So there is a bit of a problem with energy. And the whole reason I'm telling you all this is, if you watch the news as I do, or read the papers, or just generally nosy everywhere, I like to know stuff, what can I say? And there was a report, I actually saw it on Microsoft Edge browser. I run 2 browsers at work. I run Google for searching for stuff, but I have a Google account, so I don't want it linked with work, so I use Microsoft Edge for work. And if you scroll down, it gives you news stories. And it told you about a caller who called into LBC radio this morning. And I just want you to imagine, if you will, what this guy's gone through. You can go and look it up on the internet. Now, there was a very similar call in January this year, January 2022. But the one today was a guy who lives on his own. He was helping his elderly neighbours, and then he caught flu. and he's on his own. There was nobody checking up on him. Nobody thought to check. He's been in that house for 9 days. He's got no heat, he's got no light, he's run out of food. And he phoned Citizens Advice, he phoned the food bank, desperately trying to get something. But everyone's like, oh, you need to come in, you need to make an appointment. The man can barely move, he's in his bed with flu. And they just left it at that. There was no further organisation that they passed his name on to. It's just like, oh, well, if you can't come in, then we can't help you. Now, you imagine being sick for over a week. Your electricity's run out, your heating, your light, it's all gone. It's -7. You've already eaten what little food you had because you didn't go shopping. And you're phoning a radio station to say, I expect to freeze to death in my own home. That is what the UK has come to. Now, we could say that's an isolated incident, apart from the fact that they had a call from a pensioner in January this year saying virtually the same thing. And that's where we are. And what worries me is there is no safety net. Although the government says, oh yes, we've got benefits, and people can say, oh well, they can do benefits or whatever. It's the people who are not on benefits who are going to fall through the cracks quicker. Or even if you are on benefits, I mean, no one's going to care whether you come in to sign on or do whatever it is. They're just going to sanction you. But if you're on a prepayment meter, you need to get out to a shop to put the key in the box to get energy on that key. If you're that ill, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get shopping? If you've got no power, you can't use the internet to go and order an online shop. And it can very, very quickly happen to an awful lot of people. And what scares me at the moment is I think that this guy who called into LBC is possibly one of many. And there is no safety net. If you cannot get to the food bank, if you cannot get to the local store to get your key reloaded, what do you do? What happens if a pensioner has a fall in their home? You know, maybe not a bad fall, maybe not bad enough for an ambulance. But I mean, certainly I fell earlier this year, as you know, when I busted my wrist. But I also went over my ankle down the depth of quite an old-fashioned curb, so it was quite hefty. And I was struggling to walk for 3 or 4 days. So all it takes is going over on your ankle. And you can't get to the shops, you can't get your power, you can't get your food. So if you have elderly neighbours, if you have neighbours who you know live on their own, please check on them. Even if it's saying hello when you're passing, start saying hello so that you know when you expect to see them pass. And if you don't see them for a couple of days, check on them. Because we know for a fact that there's been one guy lying for 9 days in England. And LBC give them their due. They phoned his local councillor. Local councillor sent people round. They've got him electricity, they've got him food, etc, etc. What would have happened if he did not phone LBC? What would have happened? And this is what the UK is coming to. And you can call it scaremongering all you want. I am not here to scare you. I'm here to tell you the reality as it is happening to so many people. And I'm horrified. So this is what? A call to action? A helping hand? Whatever you want to call it, please start watching out for people. Because you just never know when you might be the one to make all the difference. And as you know, on this channel, we like making a difference. We want to make a difference. We want to help where we can. So if you know of someone, please check on them. Because do you know, Mandy and I were horrified in the office today when I found that. The fact that when I looked it up to try and find the story again, there had been a very similar call in January 2022. So it's not got any better than a year at all. So, as I say, this is our call to arms. Make it your business to find out who your neighbours are, especially if you know it's an elderly person on their own, even a young person on their own. We've had so many talks on this channel that we, people of a certain age, that would be me, people of a certain age, we grew up in the 60s, the 70s, when there was power cuts. We have that knowledge buried in the back of our brain somewhere. Somebody in their 20s and 30s doesn't have that sort of knowledge. And if they're suddenly laid down with the flu and they can't do anything, they don't know where to go, they don't know who to turn to. And not being funny, even when you phone a food bank and they say, well, you have to come in, you have to be referred. How are you going to get referred if you can't go to the doctors, the counsellor, whoever it is that refers you? So also, in your area, please, see if there's any food banks or social initiatives, like Marianne from Wallflowers UK, she has them, she goes shopping in the social initiatives. Find them, find their phone number, find a support network so that even if you don't need it, you've got it in case somebody else does. And if you've got a decent prepper pantry, make a wee bag just in case you need to give it to someone. Because unless we're really, really stuck, a lot of us in the prepping community could at least give someone a couple of days worth of food. And that could make all the difference. And that's what we're about, making a difference. So now that I have preached, and I'm sorry, but it had to be done. It absolutely had to. I was so horrified with that phone call today. So please, let's not have anyone round about us as a channel. Let's not have that happen to anyone else. So now I'm going to go and have a nice hot cup of tea and put this video up. So I will catch you later.